It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
All right. Happy Saturday, everybody. It is December 16th, 2023. Welcome to your latest edition of the Don Tony Show. I am Don Tony. Thank you very much, as always, for joining me. Big shout out to everybody who is live. Big shout out to everybody who's checking out the archive. Next week, make sure you stop by the channel, dontony.com, or Patreon, because we have some show announcements coming up for 2024. Definitely going to be some big changes coming. Some shows are going to be going away. One is going to be expanded, and one may be going a little bit old school. So once we have everything official and it is ready to be announced, I will let you all know. Your input is really going to determine on the weekends which day that we do a show, Saturday or Sunday. But there is definitely going to be some major changes coming. I think for the better overall. And I think it's time for 2024 to make a run to try to take back the crown. And I'm pretty excited. I mean, after all these years doing it, to be excited like this still is a pretty good thing. But I know that's not why you're here today. Today, we are going to get into some wrestling news, talk a little bit about SmackDown that went down last night. AJ Styles not only returning, but returning jacked. AJ Styles swallowed John Cena. My God, you see him. We thought Randy Orton came back jacked. And listen, Randy Orton is still much bigger than AJ Styles. But I think AJ Styles saw a little bit of Randy Orton's prognosis for the last bunch of months, saw physically how he looked, and he's like, I think I want a little of that too. And laying out LA Knight yesterday. Now, today's going to be a little bit tricky because I'm not going to give you spoilers of the December 22nd SmackDown. But AJ Styles' actions are explained. Now, I will do a little bit of a refresher later about AJ Styles and the ties to LA Knight, which is not a spoiler. We're going back and recapping some things that happened previously. But if you follow that, you'll get a very good idea as far as what happens next week. But, one thing I will tell you is that contrary to a lot of reports out there, Roman Reigns will be defending the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble. So think about this. Whoever he faces is likely not going to be in that 30-man over-the-top Royal Battle Royal. So something for you to think about. We're also going to discuss not only the news of Liv Morgan being arrested in Florida, but we're going to have some straight-up talk about it. Listen, I'm a huge fan of Liv Morgan. My friends, anybody that's been following me on this show for a long time, when I talk about getting autographed photos in the mail from WWE and NXT to give away on the shows over the last 2-3 years, one of the names that has always been generous beyond belief in sending autographed photos to give away is Liv Morgan. I absolutely am a huge fan of Liv Morgan. I will not be criticizing Liv Morgan all that much. But what I won't do is I won't make excuses. I won't try to downplay what happened. And more importantly, I'm not going to leave out important words that a lot of wrestling news sites omitted in the arrest story because they like Liv Morgan. put your fucking fandomhood aside. You're putting fandomhood over facts. And there was a little humorous tidbit that, of course, is very unpopular for me to say online, but that's what happens when news sites just cut and paste other people's stuff. And I'm going to share with you, it's pretty cute when you see it. But, a little disturbing that wrestling news sites are leaving out words like driving erratically, reckless driving. You don't see any of that, especially when she was observed going over the double yellow line and the white line multiple times. They left out all of those words to make it seem like she was just pulled over and arrested, just unfairly arrested because she had marijuana in the car. That is not what happened. I have all the details. I have the screenshot of the location where she was arrested. I have the details on the police report, what she is facing. And I will tell you, in my opinion, there are some laws in Florida that need to be changed. There's a little aspect about this story that no one is talking about, but I think that aspect is the biggest reason why she got arrested, but also one of the shoddiest laws in Florida that needs to be addressed. Unfortunately, I'm not in Florida. I'm not running for office anytime soon, so I can't do anything to change it. But what I can do is make people aware of it. If you watch On Patrol Live on Reels every weekend, what I say to you is going to sound very, very familiar. We see it every week with an arrest in Florida. If you used to watch Live PD, what we get into will sound very familiar because we have seen people get arrested over the very same thing. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. Now, I do want to tell you right off the bat, a couple of injury news reports. One is bad, one is awful, and one is great. And no, we're not celebrating somebody's injury, somebody returning from injury, but let's get into the one that is, not as serious, but definitely something that, is going to leave him out of action for an extended period of time. Best wishes go out to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega posted on social media a screenshot of him in a hospital bed, and all he wrote was, "I can't really sugarcoat this. I'm out indefinitely. I tried to keep pushing past the pain for as long as I could until it became too much. Luckily, doctors caught me when they did. I'll be here. So in the meantime, please enjoy wrestling." Okay. Kenny Omega is suffering from diverticulitis. Yes, the same diverticulitis that Brock Lesnar suffered many years ago, the same diverticulitis that I had about a year before that Lucky 13 meet and greet WrestleMania weekend several years back. Diverticulitis is not fun. It is very painful. I had to have part of my intestine cut, piece removed, and stitched back together. And if anybody was at that Lucky 13 gathering, if you remember that weekend, you see me constantly holding my midsection, because just because you get treated for it doesn't mean that you're ready to go the next day. Kenny Omega will, I believe, have to get some type of a surgery. Hopefully, it's not as serious, but the fact that he's in a hospital bed and he tried to work through the pain means that it's at a point where they have to do some invasive surgery. But the good thing is Kenny Omega will be back before you know it, and we wish him best wishes. Now, unfortunately, some really, really awful news. We talked about it last week. She had an MRI on Monday, and, well, not the full story came out yesterday, but they did mention it during SmackDown. WWE on social media elaborated a little bit further. Charlotte Flair needs surgery, and she will be out, they say, 9 months. Now, I want to make this clear, everybody. Anybody reporting on their websites that she has a torn ACL is guessing. That could likely be what happened, because a torn ACL can keep you out for 9 months. Here is a good story that we can report today. Mari Miller, friend of the family, She's very, very beloved on this show for obvious reasons. She was out for 11 months due to a torn ACL, and she returned to NXT this past week. And, she had other matters to deal with as well. But she came back from a torn ACL. She was out 11 months. Now, so again, the torn ACL could likely be the scenario because of the amount of time involved. But right now, this is just guessing on everybody's part because WWE Charlotte Flair did not say specifically why she needs the surgery. Apparently, here's the thing that's interesting. When she landed is where a lot of people are focusing on as far as the damage goes. But she is going to be out past the Royal Rumble, and you could pretty much guarantee it past WrestleMania. She will not be at WrestleMania. I mean, barring a miracle, because look, WrestleMania is still about 4.5 months away, but you do not rush her back and then risk having an even worse injury. So you could pretty much guarantee that not only Charlotte Flair not going to be on WrestleMania, but there goes the match with Jade Cargill that everybody was fantasizing about. Now you got to start thinking to yourself, who does Jade Cargill face instead? In my opinion, there's only one person. And I know some of you out there are going to say Bianca Belair, but I don't believe that is it. I think that person that Jade Cargill may need to face is Rhea Ripley. Because I'm not saying that Bianca Belair is small, but I think you need to have someone physically similar in height, similar in appearance as far as physical, and yes, I know what some people are going to say to me, DT, you say it all the time, Rhea Ripley is not as tall as she is perceived to be. I know, but you put her side by Jade Cargill, that might be the match. And I'll tell you another reason why I would choose Rhea Ripley over Bianca Belair. You look at SmackDown's women's roster, and you look at Raw's women's roster. It feels like the women's division is digressing. Instead of building up to a Nia Jax, a Shayna Baszler, Raquel Rodriguez, a Becky Lynch, we went from the Raquel Rodriguez to Crown Jewel to now Maxine Dupree and then Ivy Nile. And it's not a shot on Maxine Dupree or Ivy Nile. They are still very, very new and still have a lot to learn. In my opinion, Maxine Dupree should have faced Rhea Ripley at a house show and see how that goes. And if it's good enough, then you make it a match on Raw. Or you just make it an absolute squash where Rhea Ripley just attacks her from behind. She never had a chance. You just keep doing that, and then Ivy Nile can make the save, and then the perception feels different. But that women's division needs a big shot in the arm on Monday nights. And if Jade Cargill is ready, WrestleMania ready, I'd like to see her have a confrontation with Rhea Ripley. I think that would be really, really interesting. But best wishes go out to Charlotte Flair. Going to be out for an extended period of time. So, sucks. It sucks. We hoped for the best, especially how flexible she is and the way her leg whipped off that top rope. It felt like, maybe hyperextension, but they're saying the way that she landed, that her leg was just landed all awkwardly. Now, until we get the official word of what she's getting the surgery on, all you could do is speculate. So best wishes go out to Charlotte Flair. All right. Later on in the show, I will give you a non-spoiler preview of next week's SmackDown. Several matches advertised already. It's already taped in the books. We're not going to do any spoilers. Also, today we're going to get into the weekend ratings. I did not do a show on Wednesday because, quite honestly, NXT this week was quite bland. It had its moments. AEW Dynamite, hour 2 was just, I couldn't get into it. And I think it's just overkill to force a show talking about NXT and AEW where the conversation is really not there. I'd rather add to Monday a little bit of NXT and AEW talk. So we'll do the ratings today. very, very interesting numbers for this week in ratings. So we'll get into that. And unfortunately, once again, Impact Wrestling is back in Blutarski territory. They announced that Rio del Vikingo. They announced Will Ospreay. They announced Okada. And they're back with the demo at 0.00. I kid you not. So we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's talk a little bit about Liv Morgan, because I know a majority of you are here for that. And by the way, if anybody out there drinks ketones, this is not a plug. I don't get paid anything from them. There is a company called Tecton. It's liquid ketones, ketone esters in a can. This stuff is amazing. It doesn't taste the greatest, but it gives you this crazy mind clarity and a little bit of an energy boost. And their prices are very reasonable. You can pick them up on Amazon. I bought a 12-pack, and every day I have one, and it really, really, helps. So just a little plug in case anybody wants to go check it out. All right. Liv Morgan. She is one of the most beloved women's wrestlers of today. All right. But I personally think when we see AJ Francis with a simple emotional tweet, #FreeLiv, you're supporting your friend. I get it. But that's kind of reckless, because you downplay the fact that Liv Morgan was swerving all over the road in an area of Florida right by the Villages. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the commercials over the years for the Villages. That's like a retirement community in Florida. You go there, and you're a young guy, you're not going there to get laid unless you're looking for a grandmama. That is an elderly community. And she was right next to that elderly community on the road, C476, swerving all over the place, crossing this double yellow line and the white line numerous times. Again, I am a big supporter of Liv Morgan. I am not throwing her under the bus. I'm just telling you what happened and how I feel about it, the IWC's reaction to it, and something I think needs to change in Florida. But, you look at this road. You got trees on one side, and you got brush and hilly area on the other side. And then a little bit further up, you got the Villages. All right. I'm not trying to be morbid here, but when I see this screenshot of this road, do you know what I think about? Anybody remember a screenshot of another road from earlier this year that involved a tragic death in the world of pro wrestling, where somebody lost control of their car and hit another vehicle head on? There was no drugs involved there. All right. This is not a fucking road where, I might hit a plastic cone if I lose control. This is where this happened. And the actual report, okay, and this is straight from thevillages.com, which is the official site for the Villages, where they report all the news. Now, I'm not here to shit on Mike Johnson, a PW Insider. PW Insider did what everybody else does, and they go on the sheriff's website and they search for Liv Morgan's name, real name, Giona de Dio, and they see this. Now, where you get the cut and paste jerk-offs out there is, if you look at your screen right now, this is what she was arrested for. She was arrested for 2 counts. Because some people don't do research, they don't know that one is a third-degree felony and one is a first-degree misdemeanor. That's what the F's and the M's stand for there. If you notice, the marijuana possession is $1,000 bond, which only cost $100. But the constructive possession of synthetic cannabinoids, okay, that's a $2,000 bond. That is the third-degree felony. That is the serious charge. The weed charge is the smallest of this deal. But where you get cute with the custom paste websites is that Mike Johnson reported, and the exact words were that Morgan was arrested for possession of marijuana, not more than 20 grams, and possession of drugs, possibly synthetic cannabinoids. And you know where they got the word possibly from? They looked at this report and they see POSS. And the idiot thinks that that stands for possibly. Do you think any fucking court would write on an arrest report that this person was charged with a third-degree felony for possibly having synthetic cannabinoids? Possibly. No, that POSS stands for possession. She had constructive possession. And you know what the funny thing is? I invite you all, go on all the wrestling news websites that reported this and just search for the word possibly. If you see the word possibly, you know they just cut and paste it from other idiots that don't know how to read law. Okay, but let me get into a little bit more details here about what happened. What is constructive possession? Now, I'm not reading from any Google definition. But what constructive possession is that you have in your possession synthetic cannabinoids, synthetic weed. I was actually told that it could be called spice, K2. You know, you get the synthetic marijuana that you vape with, because she got caught with a vape pen as well. Synthetic cannabinoids are illegal in Florida. They're illegal in Florida. Here's where I feel Liv Morgan undeservingly is being charged for this. The officer smelled marijuana in the car. Constructive possession means it's something in your vicinity that you isn't on your person, but you have access to. Here's an example. And this is the example that a lot of people have used online. Okay, you search me, and I have a key for a safety deposit box. All right, the safety deposit box is not mine, and I stole the key. Hey, I have the key. I didn't do anything with the key, but constructive possession means that because I had the key, I could have had access to what's inside the safety deposit box. Get it? So it could have been in a glove compartment. It could have been a sealed bag. It could have been in the trunk of her car. Doesn't mean that she was using it. It doesn't mean that it was open. It means that it was in her vehicle, that although not used and not opened, she still had access to it. That is still considered a third-degree felony. Now, what's fucked up about this with Florida, and I'm telling you this straight up, you could buy edibles, you could buy synthetic at gas stations in Florida. You could go to some bodegas and they sell it there. And for some odd reason, they don't close these places down. I appreciate everybody who keeps saying that, oh, Liv Morgan should have a medical marijuana card. You're not allowed to smoke weed in a car. It hampers your reactions. Like I said, all you need to do is swerve the wrong way. Remember what the police report said. This is the report, not the Mike Johnson version where you leave out reckless driving, you leave out specific words. This is exactly what was written. The deer was driving a yellow Jeep around 6:30 p.m. on Thursday on County Road 476 when a Sumter County sheriff noticed the vehicle crossed over the yellow and the white lines on the roadway several times. That was left out of the reports on the wrestling sites. When the deputy approached the Jeep, he smelled marijuana in the vehicle. After searching the vehicle, they found marijuana, less than 20 grams, which is a first-degree misdemeanor. It's not a big deal. She'll probably get cleared on that. But she also possessed drug equipment, which I know a vape is a little bit extreme, but because inside the vape, they found synthetic THC, whether it was spice or whatever it is, they found it in the vehicle, and she got arrested for it. Now, I want to make something clear that no one is talking about, and this is a good thing for Liv Morgan. She was not arrested for driving under the influence. She was not arrested for reckless driving. She was pulled over because her car was all over the road. But the officer, I guess, determined that she was not inebriated. Could she have been parked and smoked a little bit earlier and then got behind the wheel? Listen, you have marijuana in your car. You could smoke in the morning. Go home. Stay home for 8 hours. Get back in your car and then go somewhere, and your car will still smell like weed. Believe me, I've been in people's vehicles. When you don't smell it and you don't smoke it, you smell it. Just like a smoker. When someone smokes in their car, even if they haven't smoked in their car all day long, it still smells. So the most important thing for Liv Morgan right now is A, she was not arrested for driving under the influence. And B, she was not arrested for reckless driving. She had it in the vehicle. Having a medical marijuana card, the car should not be smelling of weed. You cannot smoke in a car, period. Again, I'm not accusing Liv Morgan of smoking weed in the car. But when people say, oh, just get a medical marijuana card, that's not the answer. You cannot have synthetic cannabinoids in Florida. A lot of states, period. Even if you go to a bodega and they'll look orange-flavored edibles with THC, you don't think I wouldn't enjoy that? I'd fucking eat that shit if it was available. But it's still not legal. And she got caught with it. And that's why she was arrested. She paid $300 to buy 2 bonds totaling $3,000, and she is out. Now, do I think WWE is going to give her a hard time for it? No, not at all. Do I think Liv Morgan was smoking and driving? No. Because believe me when I tell you, in Florida, let alone that area, do a Google search for Sumter County. Sumter County don't fuck around. They don't fuck around. They would have given her more charges if they thought that she was using while operating. They did not give her those charges. It just happens that she had it in the vehicle. So, yeah, I get it. She wasn't, she wasn't breaking any crazy laws, but you got to understand, my friends. And again, this is not ragging on Liv Morgan, but it wasn't that she was just driving down the street and the cop pulled her over or the cop smelled weed as she drove by. The words were that she was driving erratically, that she crossed over the yellow and white lines several times. My friends, cross that yellow line right now on that picture. And what do you end up meeting? Hey, Mr. Van, how you doing? Your headlights need a little bit of cleaning. She crossed that line several times. It wasn't to go sightseeing. This could have led to a serious accident. You look at the intersection and you understand, but the problem is, and this is the internet wrestling community at its finest, when you leave out those words, because they left them out, those words, you just think that she got pulled over, they found weed in the car and they arrested her. Free Liv. Free Liv. I'm a big fan of AJ Francis. Sorry, it's blocked. But that's fucking reckless. That is fucking reckless. Read the whole story, not off a wrestling news site. It's funny how everybody credits some wrestling news sites for ratings or credits wrestling news sites for arrest reports. But meanwhile, those wrestling sites that do the ratings, they don't credit where they get the sources from. Or when they get the arrest reports, they don't credit that they got it from the villages.com or the corrections website. Everything that I got straight from there. And you could get it too. But, they have to change this law in Florida about stores Or if it is illegal, fucking enforce it. Because I watch On Patrol Live every week. I used to watch Live PD religiously. And anybody out there that is hearing me say this, that have watched those shows on a semi-regular basis, will say the exact same thing I'm about to say. Almost every week, someone gets arrested in Florida. They open a trunk and they find edibles. They open a duffel bag and they find synthetic. And it looks like candy. It looks like gummies. Sometimes it has all these kitty little graphics on it. Snowflakes, sunflowers, animals, deer. You know, it's all these cute little things. Ooh, it looks great. Grape flavor, soda flavored, chocolate flavored. And then the person gets arrested for it. I'm like, I didn't even open it. I bought it from the gas station right on the corner. I didn't know. I bought it. I swear on Jesus Christ, almost every week or every other week, you will see somebody on TV. And yeah, some people could be lying. But when too many people are saying the same thing, look, I didn't know it was illegal. I was buying gas. I saw it on the shelf. I bought it. It looked good. Hey, I smoke weed. I thought that this would be a great alternative. I didn't know it was illegal. They don't crack down on these places. Because you do a Google search right now, you will see message boards and Reddit posts in Florida. Hey, where can I get some good edibles? Where can I get this? Where can I get that? Where can I get some good synthetic shit to vape on? And you'll have all these people posting stores, and the cops do nothing. Cops do nothing. I think in the end, Liv Morgan's charges will be dropped. They'll probably drop it down to just a fine. I don't think the marijuana situation, I think that charge will be dropped. But I think what'll happen is she'll go to court, plead not guilty, and say that I did not know that this stuff was illegal. And I think the court, because she has no record, Liv Morgan has no negative history. I do believe, and I'm not saying this because it's the nice thing to say or because a lot of people feel this way online. I say it because I truly feel it. Liv Morgan doesn't come across as one of those that, you know, is looking to party and break the law and not give a shit. You know, this is not a Sonny in the making 20 years from now. This is someone that I think truthfully, you know, has a little bit of marijuana, which is perfectly fine. You know, you take it for pain, you take it to relax, you take it for anxiety. I totally get it. And I think what happened was that, you know, she went to a place, saw this as an alternative. Hey, you know, I don't want my clothes to smell like weed. I got to go to a party. I got to go to the Claw premiere. I got to go hang out with MJF. I don't want to smell like weed. I'll have an edible instead. A grape flavored Goofy. You know, look at these edibles. They're called Goofy. You know, and I don't even know what that was, but I think Liv Morgan will be fine. But understand that instead of just telling the truth or just telling it like it is, people leave out very, very critical words that make you understand that this could have turned into a major tragedy. You see that road. The cop sees her crossing those lines. You know, she's not crossing the line because it's a chicken. You know, she's not crossing that line on the road because there's a chicken going by. You know, why did Liv cross the line? Because a chicken was crossing the road. You know, that could turn into a big, plus it's the villages. It's the villages. You got a plethora of 70, 80, and 90-year-olds. Look, I see a cow. Ooh, it's sunny out. Sunny. You know, I don't like driving when there's a whole bunch of old people on the road. You know, you're hanging out, you cross the thing. You know, oh, look, this car is coming my way. You're right, an elderly community. Got to be a little bit extra careful. I hope all this shit gets cleared for Liv. I hope it does. I think that most of it will. But Florida, it's fucked up, man. Little piece of advice for any of you that live in Florida. You got to abide by the law. Yes, laws need to be changed. Yes, some of the laws are unfair, but they are still laws. And you can't use the excuse, but nothing. But nothing. Courts don't want to hear that shit. Thank God this didn't turn into an accident or something else. But that's what happened to Liv. That's what happened to Liv. So, I'm giving you the straight up story with it. How you feel about it, you're more than happy to express your opinion afterwards. Once I have an update on the court information, I will let you all know. And then, like I said, I don't see much coming out of this. So, all right. I got to show you something a little bit more lighthearted. Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley they were in Australia this past week. Probably will be back for Raw on Monday because they really need to intensify this Judgment Day storyline and the cracks in the foundation. But they were in Australia this week to further hype up the Elimination Chamber coming in February. And they posted a couple of pictures, and I got to show you both because two things I noticed right away. First of all, this is Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. I guess, I don't know, they hiking? But beautiful scenery and beautiful weather. But is it just me, my friends? Maybe it's because of the grandfather white socks that I admit that I also wear at times. Does Dominic Mysterio's legs look like chicken legs? Is it just me, or does Dominic Mysterio let me put it this way. If you took the tattoos away and I only showed you from the waist down, would it be fair to say that you would think hey, DT, why are you posting a picture of a sixth grader? I mean, his legs are awfully small. I'm just expressing an opinion. He looks, they're a lot smaller than even Adam Cole legs. What are you talking about? I don't know. I just looked at it. I mean, look, cute picture. They're having a good time. I like Dominic. I'm a big fan of Dominic. I mean, come on. Dominic is great. Dominic deserves to win some wrestling awards for 2023. I don't know what, but he still has chicken legs. Another thing is that they were seen doing one of these things. I don't know what they're called, but you're on kind of like a cable, and it looks like I guess it's going across the town, and they're, just whipping across and everything. Someone in the chat, zip lines. Thank you very much, Xander. Zip lines. So they're on zip lines, and it looks like they're hovering over the main town and everything. And when I saw this picture, I said, that building looks familiar. Is it the exact same building? No, it is not the exact same building. But when I see that, it reminded me of this building. Doesn't it kind of look similar, especially? Does anybody remember this video from 2016? It's an infamous video that was on Twitter that went viral. And if you watch the video, you'll get a kick out of it. I don't know if it's in India or Iraq, but they're doing a stunt where somebody's going to be shot like a slingshot, and I guess it's supposed to land on a target on another building. I don't know. I see Dominic and Rhea on the zip line. Remember this? Do you remember this? And he misses the target, and you see the Arab guy going, no, cut the camera. No, shut. Well, I've actually found out for the first time today that nobody got hurt, that the guy actually landed in a pool. No joke. All these years, I thought there was a tragic ending to that story, and apparently it was a stunt done in 2016, and the guy landed in a pool. Perfectly fine. That's the only reason why I'm sharing it now. But when I saw them on the zip line and I see the building in the background, I said, it looks just like that building where that guy did the human slingshot, and we thought missed all this time. But so they're coming back from Australia in time for Raw. CM Punk was back at the WWE Performance Center this week, and he was spotted training with Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, basically offering his opinions to anybody who asked for them. He was training himself. I got news for you. Is it just me, or maybe because he's standing next to Cora and Roxanne Perez, or is CM Punk starting to get a little jacked himself? I don't know. His legs are like twice the size of Dominic's. CM Punk looks like he's starting to bulk up a little bit. I tell you, you see some of the people on the WWE roster right now, they're transforming their bodies. I remember when Braun Strowman first came back. I mean, we saw him control your narrative, and he put himself in insanely good shape. But it seems lately, look at when LA Knight was Max Dupree. There's some infamous photos of LA Knight from about 8 months ago, and he is fucking jacked. You don't notice, I mean, he's in great shape, but you don't notice how jacked that guy is until he actually poses. But it seems like a lot of guys on the WWE roster are starting to get themselves in crazy ass shape. CM Punk looks like he's bulking up a little bit. And I think bulking up probably can help him, strengthen those muscles, but yeah, so he was at the Performance Center again. And as we expected, I know we talked about it earlier this week, but we had the conversation a week ago. Is CM Punk going to wrestle before the end of the year? And we thought yes. And we said there's really only 2 opponents he should be fighting, either Jenny McDonough or Dominic Mysterio. Just like with Randy Orton, CM Punk's first opponent back is going to be in New York City. He's also, I think, working Cali, and he's going to be fighting Dominic Mysterio. So CM Punk is returning to the ring before the end of the year. I hope that footage is on WWE Network or Peacock and not just, cell phone footage, but CM Punk is returning to the ring. And we'll talk more about CM Punk on Monday night. Now, we'll get into Ridge Holland in a few minutes. We'll get into a little preview for next week in a few minutes. Then we'll do ratings, and then we'll get out of here. Let's talk quickly about SmackDown yesterday. And like I said earlier, I'm going to be very careful how I word this with AJ Styles because I'm not giving away spoilers for next week. But I will rehash some things from not too long ago that have kind of put this in perspective a little bit. All right. AJ Styles returned yesterday. Now, as I said at the beginning of the show, this motherfucker came back jacked. I mean, AJ Styles has always had a great physique, but he came back jacked. And if you actually look at Randy Orton close up, Randy Orton even almost looks at this reaction like, holy shit, this guy almost is as jacked as me. I mean, AJ Styles came back like a beast. I mean, legitimately looks like a beast. Fucking swallowed John Cena. And here's a pose with them together. Look at Randy Orton. He's like, you kind of look like Devon when he showed up in TNA back in 2006. Remember Devon when he showed up in TNA in the mid-2000s? Devon looked like he swallowed 3 people. AJ looks jacked. But here's something you got to ask yourself. Is this going to affect some of AJ Styles' high-flying game? And you start putting on a lot of bulk, it can slow you down a little bit. Rey Mysterio is deceivingly jacked. I mean, he's getting a little older, so yeah, his body's kind of toning back a little bit. But Rey is thick. And Rey, there's some moves that he absolutely does not do anymore. I think more to prolong his career than anything else. But, even Rey had gotten a little bit jacked. But as a result, you saw a couple of moves get pulled away. He did the flying forearm yesterday, no problem whatsoever. But, the big story coming out of yesterday was this. Last night, Randy Orton took on Jimmy Uso in the main event, and Jimmy Uso was gold yesterday. When Roman Reigns was going to celebrate someone for a year of dedication and hard work and success, and the heir to the tribal chief, Jimmy's in the back and he's smiling, he's prepping himself up, and then Roman goes to solo, and Jimmy's got this look on his face. Jimmy had a look on his face. The best way I could describe, I don't have that actual look. Actually, I do have the hug that Roman Reigns had with Solo Sikoa. And this picture really doesn't do its justice. Like, Jimmy's got a little smile on his face, like, oh, I'm happy for you. And he's looking down. if you pretend you're a dog at a dog pound. All right. Pretend you're a dog at a dog pound and you're locked in a cage and you've been there for months and you want someone to take you home. And somebody comes in, a husband, hot wife, couple of kids, big box of biscuits, and they're looking around all the dogs and they start looking at you and everybody seems fine and like, oh, we have this beautiful room and, he could stay in. Oh, and we'll treat him well and we'll give him everything. Oh my God. And, you start wagging your tail. You start like, oh my God, I got the ultimate. We even have a humping post for him. And it's like, yeah. And oh, Mom, I love him. And then at the very split second, they look next and like, oh, we'll take him. Oh my God, we'll take him. And you'll be like, oh. That's how Jimmy Uso looked yesterday. When Jimmy Uso realized that the dog next door named Solo, we'll take Solo. Jimmy Uso looked like a broken-hearted puppy that he almost got a home. He almost got it, and he didn't get it. And then what about later on when he went yeet to Roman Reigns? And I can't show the video because WWE flags more than 5 seconds. But if you remember the screenshot yesterday, I mean, I thought they were going to bust out laughing. That had to have been a pre-recorded segment. I mean, it was just... when he said yeet, Roman Reigns had this look on his face, and simultaneously, Roman is going this way really slow, and Jimmy Uso's going this way like, and I couldn't stop laughing. I thought they were going to crack up laughing, but Jimmy Uso was gold yesterday. But in the main event, he's taking on Randy Orton. The main event was kind of like the Dominic Mysterio match, complete with getting dumped on the announcer's table twice. This match was pretty much similar. Randy Orton is about to win. Solo Sikoa's music hits, try to cause a little distraction. LA Knight's music hits to try to negate Solo Sikoa. And after the match is over and Randy Orton is, pretty much prevailing, we get a beatdown by Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Jimmy Uso. Roman Reigns cheap shots LA Knight on the rampway to negate him, and they're beating on Randy Orton. And next thing you know, AJ Styles' music hits. Now, by now, LA Knight is back in the ring, and that's important aspect to think about. AJ Styles' music hits, and he ends up returning. He hits a flying, phenomenal forearm to Roman Reigns, knocks Roman Reigns is on his ass. Then he goes after Solo Sikoa and takes care of business for Solo Sikoa, and the Bloodline retreat. But if you look, LA Knight is on the ground. What happened to LA Knight? Was he just like hanging out, watching all the antics, selling a beatdown by the Bloodline? No. After the Bloodline went out of Dodge, AJ Styles looks at LA Knight and nails him. And the crowd is booing the shit out of AJ Styles. AJ just has a stare down with Randy Orton. AJ walks off. Interesting how he walks past the Bloodline and the Bloodline don't immediately try to kick his ass because didn't he just phenomenally forearm me? Like he walks by and the Bloodline just looks at him like, hey, what's that deodorant you're wearing? Like they didn't do nothing. And no, he did not turn heel. No, he did not tease joining the Bloodline. AJ Styles just cracked LA Knight. Now, why would you say that? Okay. Not much detail has come out from the tapings for next week. So what I'm about to say was not discussed in a promo or anything like that, but this is probably the best way I could explain this where it makes sense. Okay. LA Knight was seen in the back earlier with Randy Orton. Now, let's go one step before, and then this all makes sense. The Bloodline open up SmackDown. And as I said earlier, Roman Reigns is talking about how, he wants to celebrate that, it's the holiday season. And he says he's a fair tribal chief. He wants to give love and pay tribute to someone who was sacrificed the last year, the person who was next in line. And here's where Jimmy Uso thinks it's him. And the crowd starts chanting, Randy, Randy. So Roman Reigns having a little fun with the fans. It's not Randy. What are you, nuts? He says, this is the next tribal chief, the heir in line. And Roman Reigns says, join me in congratulating Solo. And Jimmy looks, dejected. Roman hugs Solo Sikoa, as I showed you earlier. Roman says, I love you to Solo. And before anything could else happen, Randy Orton's music hits. Randy Orton hits the ring. Randy Orton says that he's been thinking about for 18 months what Roman and the Bloodline did to him, putting him on the shelf. And he says, you could put any member of the Bloodline up against me. I'm coming for you, Roman. And Roman says to Randy Orton, he hasn't thought about Randy at all during these 18 months. Roman also thinks it's crazy that people could just show up and announce matches and announce, that they're next in line. He tells Randy to listen to the voices in his head and leave the ring. Go to the back of the line. If you come after me, you ain't coming back. You will be in retirement. So Randy pauses and he says, Roman, maybe you are right. Roman, you have changed for the better. He even calls Roman Reigns a legend. But Randy reminds all of us and Roman that he's changed for the better as well. And Randy will always be known for being a legend killer. And Randy almost RKOs Roman Reigns, but Roman ducks out of the way. Randy says to Roman, you better start thinking about me. And he says, hold on a second. The voices in my head are telling me that Roman may have just crapped his pants. Oh, and by the way, one more thing. Daddy's back. So they're coming out with a Daddy's back shirt, guys. So this sets up the match later on with Jimmy Uso taking on Randy Orton. And we had one comedy moment with a Bloodline sitting in the back, and Jimmy thinks that, maybe the heir to the tribal chief would be better suited for this. And Roman is playing off like, look, you do this by yourself. I'm a giving person, and insinuating that he could give Jimmy a little bit more. Later on, for some reason, Jimmy thinks he's being set up. And he goes to Solo Sikoa. He says, you would tell me if something's going to happen, right? And Solo Sikoa looks at Jimmy Uso and says, you're my brother. Now, if you remember not too long ago, Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso were both taking liberties, beating the crap out of Solo Sikoa. This is when, they both tease being out of the Bloodline. But so that could come back later on. But how does this incorporate AJ Styles? Okay. Later on in the night, Randy Orton is in the back and he sees LA Knight. And, they're talking about how the Bloodline numbers could work against Randy Orton later on. Randy Orton doesn't need LA Knight's help. Remember last week when I said that Randy Orton stopped LA Knight, who's going to hit the blunt force trauma on Jimmy Uso, and Randy Orton pushed LA Knight away and hit the RKO instead. And after the match was over, LA Knight looked at Roman and was like, okay, all right, you got it. Well, that's to tease possibly a little dissension between the two. We talked about that dissension last week. Yeah, this is leading to a little bit of forced dissension between Randy and LA Knight because Randy doesn't need LA Knight's help later on in the night. And LA Knight reminds Randy Orton that if there's one man that is going to take everything away from Roman Reigns, it is not Randy Orton. It's L.A. Knight. So right now you have L.A. Knight clashing with Randy Orton a little bit as far as who is going to take out Roman Reigns. Okay. Let's go back a little bit. Let's rewind. Wasn't too long ago that we were going to have the premium live event, WWE Fastlane. And if you remember, AJ Styles was supposed to team up with John Cena to take on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. And the Bloodline beat the fuck out of AJ Styles, and AJ Styles was sent off in an ambulance. Remember John Cena all concerned next to the ambulance? And then for a short period of time, we thought that John Cena was going to be taking on Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in a handicap match. Well, what ends up happening is LA Knight happens to show up on the SmackDown, gets involved a little bit. And you remember John Cena's overacting when LA Knight, I got to take my glasses off for this, and LA Knight grabbed the contract and he grabs the pen and he's about to sign it. And John Cena's like, remember that night? Well, LA Knight took it upon himself to take AJ Styles' spot. So now AJ Styles was returning to SmackDown last night. And LA Knight earlier in the night says to Randy Orton, if anybody is going to stop Roman Reigns, it's LA Knight. Well, AJ Styles ain't having that. AJ Styles wants a piece of Roman Reigns, and he is the first in line. Randy Orton believes he is the first in line. Randy Orton was on the shelf for 18 months. LA Knight believes he's the first in line because he has earned it. He has been out there every single week. AJ Styles believes that he's first in line because he was supposed to be at Fastlane and the Bloodline took him out. So now you got three guys all wanting Roman Reigns at the same time. Roman Reigns will have a match at the Royal Rumble against one person. So how do we determine who the next person is to face Roman Reigns? Well, that does not happen next week on SmackDown, but it will lead to how that is resolved. Nick Aldis will have a solution. Okay, so now you understand why AJ Styles cheap shot, well, nailed Roman Reigns. I wouldn't call it a cheap shot, deserved it, but also laid out LA Knight. Now you understand how this all ties in. AJ Styles did not turn heel. AJ Styles fights Solo Sikoa next week on SmackDown. That is not a spoiler. I didn't tell you who wins and who loses. I have the match lineup for everybody. But AJ Styles wrestles Solo Sikoa next week. AJ Styles did not turn heel. AJ Styles just feels that after what he went through for LA Knight to just slide himself in there, oh, AJ Styles is going to give him a little bit of a reality check. That's the deal. It's not going to be a triple threat at the Royal Rumble, Gruss. I just said it'll be Roman versus one person. Who knows? Maybe the other two guys will face each other at the Royal Rumble. Listen, I don't know who is going to face who at the Royal Rumble with Roman. But I personally think LA Knight has to be one of the last participants in that Royal Rumble match. So LA Knight, in my opinion, does not face Roman in a rematch at the Royal Rumble. I think the most logical choice would be Randy Orton, because Randy Orton just came back. Randy Orton, has just scratched the surface. I don't think Randy Orton needs to be in the 30 men over the top battle royal. And, he ain't going to overcome 29 people. Unfortunately, there's no feud with Riddle anymore that they could go back on. There's no tag team partner on a regular basis for Randy right now. So I think Randy versus Roman Reigns is the most logical match where the outcome. I think people would rather see Randy versus Roman than AJ Styles versus Roman at the Royal Rumble. And guess what? Maybe AJ Styles ends up eliminating LA Knight at the Royal Rumble, or vice versa, or maybe they both get taken out. But the idea that AJ Styles turn heel, no, incorrect. Okay, a couple other quick things that happened yesterday on SmackDown. My. Carmelo Hayes shows up on SmackDown babyface, kind of having some issues in NXT. The ratings department kind of hit a little bit of a snag. Took on Grayson Waller yesterday. And this match yesterday was excellent. I mean, they brawled. They had a spectacular bout. But there was one point in this match. Did you guys see this spot? I mean, when they did the replay and they did the opposite camera angle, which I don't have, it looked even better. But one thing that we've been talking about with Grayson Waller going back to his NXT days is how innovative he is with some of his offense. And he did a move yesterday. I'm calling it the tumbleweed DDT. In fact, I'm going to put that online. Maybe it'll stick. But he is sitting on the top rope yesterday. He puts his leg under Carmelo Hayes' above his neck, and then proceeds to what, like I said, looks like a tumbleweed into a DDT. And Carmelo Hayes lands on his head like how RVD used to take DDTs. And people, even Corey Graves, like, I don't even know what to call that. I don't even know what that is. It looked so incredible yesterday, but I'm calling it the tumbleweed DDT. So, by the way, here's a little inside tidbit. One thing that is going to change as far as video goes is that probably there's only going to be 1 to 2 video shows a week starting January. In fact, it may be once a week and another show every 2 weeks. But what I am going to do with those other days is I'm going to take the main show and break it up into clips and put clips online. So when we talk about Liv Morgan, if we come up with a name idea, we discuss a match, we discuss something, there's going to be a clip online, because I'm kind of tired of all my shit getting buried in one particular podcast, even if I put timestamps or a synopsis. So there's going to be tons of clips, but I need 3 days in order to do that. So, the shows are going to be chopped down to probably 2 a week, sometimes 1 a week, just letting you know. But I kind of like, they're not going to use the term famouser, because famouser, you just drop straight down. Let's look at that move one more time. Let me back it a little bit. If you look at the move one more time, Carmelo Hayes does not land straight down. It's a DDT. It looks like a DDT. So I'm going to call it the tumbleweed DDT. But the end of the match, surprisingly, Carmelo Hayes with the fucking win. Go figure. And he earned it, man. He hit nothing but net. And I tell you, when you watch Melo hit nothing but net, something that I noticed yesterday, and I put it in slow-mo, not here, but I put it in slow-mo, that makes that move look even better. When I saw the match end, for a split second, I was like, I hope Grayson's neck is okay, because it looked like Carmelo went all his weight on the back of Grayson Waller's neck. When I watched the move again in slow motion, Carmelo Hayes drops his leg on the back, the top of the back of Grayson Waller. But it's so fast and he is so smooth the way he does it. It looks like he's right on the neck. And the match was great yesterday. But you know who entertained the shit out of me yesterday? Logan Paul. And Logan Paul wasn't even there. What they did was they had him record a couple of clips mocking Carmelo Hayes and mocking Kevin Owens. First, he says that Carmelo Hayes, what did he win, an essay contest to get a spot in the tournament? Well, I know if we're splitting hairs, didn't Logan Paul choose that an NXT partner? Yes, he didn't choose Carmelo Hayes, but he says, did Melo win an essay tournament? And he's like, what's your phrase? Melo don't miss? Well, guess what? I've missed your whole career. Good luck, random guy. Good luck, random guy. But if you remember the start of this tournament, when everybody else was reporting that Kevin Owens is out of the tournament with a broken hand, we were the only person to say that he's staying in the tournament and the broken hand will weigh heavy into it. And sure enough, Kevin Owens had his match yesterday against Austin Theory. And here we go with Logan Paul once again. And he says Logan Paul dressed like a fifth grader. And he says he should stitch the sleeves back onto his shirt because he looks stupid. But it was just funny. I mean, Logan Paul just legitimately just comes off as a dick. You just want to punch him in the mouth. But yesterday, Austin Theory very quietly is starting to win the fans over. You know, these losses are a little bit humbling to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. They're not getting jobbed out. You know, there's some people online, what the fuck are they doing? They keep making them lose. Don't worry. They got their whole career ahead of them. Austin Theory and Kevin Owens killed it yesterday. Grayson Waller and Carmelo Hayes was excellent. And the crowd got into it. But Kevin Owens and Austin Theory went one step further. And the story of this match was Austin Theory trying to further injure the wrist of Kevin Owens. And they had an absolute brawl. Towards the end of the match, Owens goes for the stunner, but Austin Theory stopped him, kicked Kevin Owens' hand. They went out to the outside of the ring. Austin Theory took Kevin Owens' wrist and rammed it into the ring post, you know, stomping on it, trying to break it. But towards the end of the match, Kevin Owens punched Austin Theory and did kind of like a Iron Mike Sharp, would you call it? Or maybe even Lex Luger with the forearm, even though Lex Luger didn't have a cast. Oh, Cowboy Bob Orton. I think Cowboy Bob Orton probably is even a better example of it. He accidentally, quote unquote, nails Austin Theory with the cast. And you got Corey Graves, you know, Kevin Owens is cheating to win and this and that. They even use a couple of references. Some people, I think, are reading too much into it, thinking that Corey Graves took a shot at Tony Khan yesterday because when he was talking about how Kevin Owens would just randomly hit people backstage, and Corey Graves says, you know, sometimes I feared for my safety. He didn't say feared for his life. He says, I feared for my safety. I don't think he was talking about Tony Khan. I just, you know, but it's funny because enough people are like, motherfucker, you can't stop talking about it. I kind of put it on themselves, to be honest. But Kevin Owens realizes, hey, I used the cast. Fuck it. He pins Austin Theory and he advances. But, you know, as we said at the beginning of this tournament, it's going to come down to Kevin Owens versus Logan Paul. Kevin Owens is not going to be 100% due to his wrist. And then Logan Paul has his right hand. Kevin Owens has his right hand. And it's going to come down to one or two things. Either Kevin Owens cannot knock out Logan Paul, and Logan Paul can, or it's going to be Kevin Owens' brace cast versus Logan Paul and the brass knucks. Either Logan Paul is going to knock out Kevin Owens with the brass knucks, or he's going to just knock him out. I personally think he uses the brass knucks because Kevin Owens is known for punching people out without a cast. You're not going to take that gimmick away and give it to Logan Paul. That's why Logan Paul is going to use the knucks. So I think Logan Paul ultimately will use the knucks and he'll retain his United States Championship. But we still have more of a tournament to go because as of right now, your tournament is Santos Escobar and Bobby Lashley on one side. And then on the opposite side, we have Carmelo Hayes and Kevin Owens. Next week, we will not give a spoiler, but next week, Santos takes on Bobby Lashley. Carmelo Hayes takes on Kevin Owens. We did have a brief backstage segment yesterday with Bobby Lashley with the Street Profits commenting about Santos Escobar. Santos has no shot at winning. I didn't like the segment. It just, the Street Profits almost, I don't want to say they were robotic, but it just felt there. Something major is going to change soon with the Street Profits. Don't know what that actually will be. We've kind of speculated a few different things, but something is changing very, very soon. Who knows? Maybe they'll do something at the Royal Rumble where the Street Profits eliminate Bobby Lashley. Just saying. Just saying. Something else that happened on SmackDown yesterday. Karrior Kross. Interesting video from Karrior Kross with Scarlett And Karrior Kross is teasing a new beginning in WWE. And people are speculating online, what is he talking about? There was a couple of images with shadows, and a lot of people slowed it down. And one of the images looks like a side view of Paul Ellering. If you remember, he managed AOP. So Karrior Kross, it looks like, could be getting a faction on SmackDown. And they showed in the vignette the infamous moment. Remember when Reigns was in the ring and Scarlett took the hourglass and turned it upside down to insinuate that Roman Reigns is on the clock, tick-tock? So I think this is a group of people. I think it's going to be a group of people that want to try to turn SmackDown upside down. Now, yeah, some people think AOP could be involved. Paul Ellering could be involved. I don't know about that. And the reason why I say that is because Karrior Kross does not need a mouthpiece. Karrior Kross needs to talk more and needs to be more himself. It looks like the tarot cards are going away, thank God. I would not be surprised if we see an alliance of a few people on SmackDown that you would not expect to see. I don't know if it's going to be call-ups from NXT, but I think we're going to see a few people align. Now, could it be Sheamus? Could it be Ridge? Could it be other? I have no idea. But I'm not sure if I like the idea of AOP or Paul Ellering aligning with Karrior Kross. That doesn't seem like the first people I would think about. You look at his character, even when they were in NXT, when it felt like, what was that, Natural Born Killers, look from that movie. Obviously, he couldn't do that on WWE television, but I think Karrior Kross's group has to be entirely different. It can't be random people. It's got to have some common denominator with it. Joe Gacy would be phenomenal. Absolutely would love Joe Gacy in it. That's a possibility. There's definitely people that they can use, but at least we know that this is turning the corner. Yes, he lost the tournament match last week. So did Dragon Lee. But for Kross, it was more to reintroduce him back onto SmackDown, even though, people didn't forget about him, but he's been gone for a while. And Dragon Lee beat Dominic Mysterio, so all is good. So nobody's complaining. But we should know in the next couple of weeks, who's going to align with Karrior Kross. Should be really interesting. Yesterday, we also had a match with the Kabuki Warriors reuniting, defeating Zelina Vega and Mia Yim. And, I was surprised that they let this match go 8 minutes long. They gave a lot of offense to Zelina Vega and Michin. But in the end, Kairi with the beautiful elbow drop to Michin. And you know what? I'm happy that the IWC is kind of like pulled back a little bit on their sudden hatred for for Kairi Sane. She had that match with Bianca Belair. And, it didn't mesh well. And as I said, Kairi Sane has not been back in the United States all that long. She has to adapt back to the WWE formula. And, the only way that's going to happen is more matches, repetitive. House shows is not the only way. You have to do some TV as well. And yesterday, it was a much different vibe as far as Kairi Sane in the IWC. But the big news coming out of yesterday was a little promo that Damage Control issued a little bit later on, that the Kabuki Warriors may be going for the tag team titles, which I think could very well happen. Io Sky is the current women's champion. And Bayley announces that she is entering the Royal Rumble. So now, all I could say, to this right now is if Asuka, Kairi Sane, or even Io Sky or a combination thereof also enter the Royal Rumble, Bayley's probably going to eliminate one of her own members. Even if it's kind of accidental, where she's kind of trying to help one of them eliminate someone else and she inadvertently eliminates one of the members of Damage Control. And I think she's going to look shocked, and that's going to be the nail in the coffin. I think that's kind of where they may be going with this. But it was very, very cool to see the Kabuki Warriors reunite yesterday. I almost wore the shirt for tonight, but I forgot. So I didn't take it out. But that was pretty much your episode of SmackDown yesterday. A good show. Definitely, advanced a few storylines. The teasing of Solo Sikoa as the heir apparent. Obviously, something is going to backfire in the coming months, and Solo Sikoa is going to turn his back on Roman Reigns, and that should leave Roman alone all by himself. Jimmy will be busy setting up the match against Jay at WrestleMania. So Roman will end up being all to himself, and who knows, maybe Solo is going to be in the corner of Roman at WrestleMania 40, but they're going to tease a little bit of issues leading up to it. And this time around, Solo Sikoa does not help Roman Reigns defeat Cody Rhodes. Or maybe we get the return surprise of a John Cena. Maybe John Cena negates Solo Sikoa the second time around. Who knows? Maybe John Cena versus Solo Sikoa with John Cena's career on the line at WrestleMania. That was a match we discussed last Sunday. But yesterday's SmackDown, very enjoyable. Great to see AJ Styles back. I did find it funny. Remember, it was 4 weeks in a row that the Wrestling News site says that AJ Styles was going to return at SmackDown. They finally got it right, everybody. They finally got it right. But I can't get over the fact how jacked this motherfucker looks. I mean, it wasn't out that long. Fastlane was not that long ago. He is put on, 20 pounds of muscle? Would that be a stretch? 15 pounds of muscle, I would say. Amazing shape right now for AJ Styles. That must feel good. Good for him. A couple other things before we start wrapping this up. Let me give you the non-spoiler for next Friday's SmackDown. It's already taped. This way everybody could have some extended time home with their families for the holidays. NXT already taped the next 2 weeks as well. I'm not going to get into the matches today, but we definitely have to discuss Ridge Holland because this trended all over the net. Everybody knows about it. I want to clear up some bullshit, and I want to give my honest thoughts on what they're doing with Ridge Holland and NXT. Some people think it is very, very low class. I actually think this may lead to an epic return for somebody at the Royal Rumble. I'll tell you why in a minute. A big return at the Royal Rumble. All right, so next week we have the semifinals in the number one contenders United States tournament. Santos Escobar will be taking on Bobby Lashley. Carmelo Hayes will be taking on Kevin Owens. The winners of those two matches will face each other, I believe, the following week or January 1st. The first week of January, because January 1st is Raw. 1/1/24 might be an interesting day for yours truly. I'll give you an announcement next week. So I think it comes down to Santos Escobar and Kevin Owens. I think that's the only way to go. And then you have Kevin Owens win the whole thing, and he takes on Logan Paul at the Royal Rumble. So that's one match we have next. Well, two matches we have next week. We also have an 8-woman Holiday Havoc tag team match. Zelina Vega and Michin versus Bianca Belair and Shotzi versus Io Sky and Asuka. Wonder why they would do that. And Kairi Sane and Bayley. Oh, because Kairi Sane and Bayley don't have great history together. I wonder if something's going to happen with Bayley and Kairi Sane. I personally would put Io and Bayley together. But, all right, so that's what they did there. I did not read all the spoilers yet because I'd like to be somewhat surprised. Dragon Lee will be defending the NXT North American Championship against Butch. So that'll be happening next week. And as we said, I don't have a graphic for it, but AJ Styles will be taking on Solo Sikoa. Something happens early in the night to set up that match. That's why WWE is not advertising it, because an angle will set up the match for later in the night. And we'll go from there. So, with that said, two other things. First, WWE. Anybody know, when it comes to TikTok videos, is the cutoff normally 2 minutes or is it 5 minutes for a short? Because I don't do shorts. The only short that I've ever really posted, I posted two, the Affleck impersonation in my car, and when the moth flew by, when we were talking about the night Bray Wyatt passed, and that moth was in my room. How fucking crazy was that? Have you ever seen a moth before it? Have you ever seen a moth after it? And there's still idiots to this day that think that I set that up. I've somehow bought a trained moth and told the moth, stay in the corner until your cue, and then fly into my face. I've never seen a moth in this house in 27 years doing these shows. And it comes on while I'm talking about Bray Wyatt passing away. Bizarre. But how long is 5 minutes the cutoff for a short? That's what I want to know. Probably not. The reason why I'm saying it is, I wonder if shorts have anything to do with this. WWE next week, I don't think this airs on television. WWE next week debuts something they are calling WWE Speed. I feel the need for WWE Speed. What is WWE Speed? It's matches that have 5 minute time limits. Now, I know what you're going to say on the surface. Well, DT, WWE has a lot of matches that don't last 5 minutes, but they're doing something called WWE Speed, and it's 5 minute matches, and the winner of the match gets a point. The loser of the match is docked a point. And the match, if it goes to a time limit draw, nobody gets points. Oh, God, I hope this is not an idea because of AEW's content. I hate points. Is this a tournament? Are they doing a WWE Speed tournament? You're going to develop points? Who the fuck wants to track points? I certainly don't want to track points. But that's the deal. So yesterday, for next week's tapings, they had Corey Graves and Kevin Patrick on commentary. Michael Cole was not on commentary. And the matches that were taped were Axiom versus Cedric Alexander and Bronson Reed versus Nathan Frazier. So those are the two matches that were taped for WWE Speed. So, my friends, it is not this kind of speed. Sorry, Billy. Oh, Billy. We have some NWA news next week. But no, not that kind of speed. But yeah, 5 minute matches. Winner gets a point. Actually, the more you think about it, it sounds pretty easy to remember. Winner gets a point. Loser loses a point. Draw, nobody gets points. What's the objective of it? I agree. Sounds dumb. My thought was, if they're going to do like some type of, short thing with YouTube or TikTok, and that's why they're doing these 5 minute things. All right. But we'll see what happens. All right. Before we do the ratings and get out of here, I want to just talk briefly about the crippler, Ridge Holland. A lot of people forget how, I know Chris Benoit is not a topic that we ever really discuss on these shows anymore. Does anybody ever remember why Chris Benoit got the term the crippler? Does anybody remember the one person that he was associated with, which led to Chris Benoit did not cripple a whole bunch of people. He was called the Crippler because of an injury that was caused to someone. Anybody remember who the injury was? Thank you, Gruss. He broke Sabu's neck in 1994, I believe it was. Dropped him right on his head. And then after that, Joey Styles coined him the Crippler, Chris Benoit. And it stuck. It stuck his whole career. So I used the term for Ridge Holland yesterday, and I put a couple of screenshots up. We know what happened with Big E. Inadvertently fell on his head, broke his neck. Not too long ago, he hit Elton Prince with, I believe, a pounce, fucked up his shoulder. Didn't make him crippled, but, incapacitated him for an extended period of time. And on NXT, what people are calling tasteless, low class, inappropriate for WWE to do this. I'm sorry that I have to give a little bit of a spoiler, but it is a must because this trended everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was reporting it. People were clickbaiting it for views. So I got to tell you what happened. The screenshot that you see on your screen right now is Ilya Dragunov being taken out of the NXT arena on a stretcher with a neck brace on. Ridge Holland made his NXT return. And in the upcoming weeks, you will see Ridge Holland challenge Ilya Dragunov. You see where this is going, my friends. If you look at my screenshot, I want to make this clear for everybody looking to the right now and zooming in, and some people are hoping they could get a high definition picture of this so they could cut and paste it on their own clickbait sites. I photoshopped that just to give you, because we didn't see the match yet, just to give you an idea of what happened. Ridge Holland dropped Ilya Dragunov on his neck, dropped him on his head. Match was stopped. Officials came out, trainers came out, ruled the match a no contest. Ilya Dragunov was taken out on a stretcher. People in the crowd were silent. They thought Ridge Holland hurt another person, dumping him on his head. That is what happened on the NXT tapings. So what happened? It immediately went viral online. That Ridge Holland dropped Ilya Dragunov on his head by accident, and Ilya was taken to the hospital on a stretcher. He hurt someone else again. It is a storyline. And there are some people that are still injury to Ilya, ? They know what it is. They know it's the storyline. Is this in bad taste by WWE after what happened with Big E? That picture on the left of Ridge Holland, kind of like a belly-to-back suplex, whatever it was, and Big E landed on his head. Obviously, it was not intentional. But after what happened to Big E, to even insinuate that Ridge Holland would intentionally drop anybody on his head, is that tasteless, disrespectful to Big E? Is that low class by WWE standards? My answer to you is this. I personally think that because this is a storyline, they absolutely had to get the okay from Big E. Because I could only imagine Big E, who has been out of action for a long time, and I could only imagine depression-wise, at times wondering if he'll ever wrestle again. That must torment someone to a breakdown. If that is my livelihood and that's what I love to do more than anything, and it's taken away from me. You see how Bret Hart, has still, tormented what happened with this match with Goldberg Riddle. At least Bret Hart had a Hall of Fame storied career already. Big E was just approaching his peak. So imagine if you're Big E, one of the most beloved. I mean, look, if people beloved Liv Morgan, they fucking love Big E. Imagine Big E reading online the NXT spoilers, and Ridge Holland shows up and dumps Ilya on his head, and it's a storyline. And if I'm Big E and nobody tells me that they're going to play a storyline of what happened to me for real, I'd be kind of fucking angry about it. I'd be pretty damn pissed. So I personally think Big E signed off on this. I'm also going to go outside the box and say it. Please, if it doesn't happen, don't say, DT, you were wrong. Not reporting news. I have a feeling Big E's returning at the Royal Rumble. I think he is. Because even if Big E signed off on this, and it's a storyline, for the everyday wrestling fan out there, they're not going to get a statement from Big E that says, oh, yeah, no, I approve of it. I'm fine with it. Oh, they're not going to talk about storyline. Big E is going to stay away from that or play into it. So I think listen, Rich Holland got death threats and still to this day gets disgusting DMs, emails, and letters from people that blame him for what happened to Big E and continues to happen to Big E. So to turn around and take that and then take one of the most beloved wrestlers of NXT today and then turn it into a storyline with the guy that legitimately almost crippled Big E accidentally. Oh my God. Can you imagine what could be happening? Put a bulletproof vest on Ridge Holland in Florida. Like, you're taking the guy that legitimately hurt someone accidentally, two people, and now you intentionally in a storyline drop someone on his head. Something good has to come out of this. I think Big E is returning. I think that's the only way that this ends up, because I just can't picture, even since Big E can't comment on it, every day you're going to have, listen, and this is something I need to really stress right now. It's not happening right now. And that's because it hasn't aired on NXT as of yet. I'm talking about it now because it went viral and a lot of people were reporting that the injury was real and they knew it was BS and still teased it as real to get people to clickbait, to get hits. So once this airs on TV, your casual wrestling fan is going to see that Ridge Holland dropped someone on their head. And virtual signaling, they're either going to call for Ridge Holland's head, fire this motherfucker already. And for the people that do realize that it's a storyline, they're going to say, fuck you, WWE. Big E is still suffering. Big E is still got these injuries, and you fucking turn it into a storyline? That's disgusting. That's awful. So once that comes out, shit's on. You're going to see his name trending. You're going to see all this virtual signaling against Ridge Holland or WWE or both. And something good has to come out of this. And I think that good is Big E returning to the ring. Fingers crossed. I think that does happen. All right. Let's wrap this up with some ratings and also a quick plug. It's not January 1st yet. I'm still doing our regular shows. But, I'm definitely going to start getting your input as far as what you want to keep on a weekly basis and what we are going to do more for special episodes. So everything will fall into place by next week. But tomorrow night, 8:05 p.m., I will be here for the sit down. Sit down is basically a live interactive Q&A. Everybody who's live, you set the tone. You ask the questions. You bring up the topics. We talk about whatever. It can even be Ring of Honor Final Battle, which I will be watching tonight. I heard it was excellent. And yeah, tomorrow I'm sure somebody's going to ask me about all this hot mess of a discussion that all these people are forcing about Warner Brothers Discovery and Raw. Just let it, just wait. Probably somebody will bring it up tomorrow. But let's talk a little bit about ratings. This past week's ratings are pretty fascinating. You already know about CM Punk. Here's all my notes. Let's go from the oldest to the most recent. And I am going to include December 6th Dynamite, because there was a couple of tidbits there that I think you really should know about, and some of it involves Christian Cage and Adam Copeland. I think it's definitely something to be a little bit of concern about. And a little bit of reality check about this Wednesday's Dynamite as well. And please, I'm not just calling out AEW. NXT had some bad numbers. WWE had some bad numbers. Everybody had some bad numbers this week. Some was good, though. All right. Dynamite for December 6th was 823,000 viewers, down from the week prior is 858. The high point for Dynamite was Jon Moxley versus Roosh, that the Big Bang Theory lead-in, which did 984. They lost 105,000 viewers as the match went on. The low point from that night was the Christian Cage, Adam Copeland hype video, and Jay White versus Jay Lethal. Only scored 722. As you have heard the last 3 weeks, and you will hear again in this report, Jay White continues to be at the bottom of AEW's ratings. It's Jay White and it's High Flyers. The High Flyers have been grounded amongst AEW viewers for quite some time now. When everybody is a train wreck, people get numb to it, and they're not impressed anymore. El Hijo del Viqueño, you need to jump off of a volcano. You need to do so. No. Diving into a side of a table is not good enough. Dive into a pane of glass next time. No 360 flip onto someone. Do it backwards, outside the ring, into the crowd, and your neck must hit the guardrail. Then you'll catch my interest. Everybody does it. Nobody does it. The positive from Dynamite, though, despite the steady decline throughout the night, the biggest drop overall for the whole night was only 57,000 viewers, outside of the Big Bang lead-in, obviously. And if you take away the Big Bang lead-in, they only had 70,000 viewers less by the end of the night. So despite the lower number, they kept a lot of their viewers. The negative was that almost half the show was higher than the Christian Cage Adam Copeland main event. Half the show had a higher rating than that main event match. Half the show did not break 800,000 viewers. And the MJF segment was the lowest segment for hour number one. Impact Wrestling for December 7th did 93,000 viewers. Their demo was 0.01. New Japan, we are officially burying them. This will be the last week, unless they start breaking 50,000 viewers again. I think at New Japan, we should just let them rest in peace. New Japan for December 7th scored 41,000 viewers. All right. Raw. Actually, no. Let's go SmackDown. Last week. SmackDown for December 6th did 2,384,000 viewers. That is up from the week prize, 2,044,000. The high point from SmackDown last week was a CM Punk promo, which did 2,467,000 viewers. The low point was the first half of LA Knight and Randy Orton versus Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, which did 2,232,000. The positive from last Friday's SmackDown, nothing was under 2.2 million for the whole night. The rating was very consistent for the whole night, except for right after the CM Punk promo. The match between Santos Escobar and Dragon Lee gained 75,000 viewers as the match went on. Randy Orton and LA Knight versus Solo and Jimmy Uso, despite the lowest quarter, which was the first half of that match, they gained 175,000 viewers as that match went on. So they did really well. The negative, 200,000 viewers tuned out during Charlotte and Asuka's match. And they didn't return back to SmackDown until the very end, which was the main event. All right. I got fascinating NXT ratings news coming. Fascinating. Anybody into numbers, you'll get a kick out of this one. I promise you it's not any hype. Rampage for December 8th did 341,000 viewers, down from the week prize 348. The high point was the open of Orange Cassidy versus Angelico, which did 365,000 viewers. The low point of the night was Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs versus Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal. That did 313,000 viewers. The positive is that the viewership started at 365, ended with 355, and nothing had any major drops. So they kept pretty much their audience. The negative is that Orange Cassidy and Angelico lost 28,000 viewers as the match went on. Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs versus Christopher Daniels and Matt Sydal lost 20,000 viewers as the match went on. Nothing broke 400,000. And Bryan Danielson was not the highest rating of the night. AEW Collision for last Friday, December 9th, did 455,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior's 451. The high point was Kenny Omega versus Ethan Page, which did 492,000 viewers. The low point, High Fly, Commander, and Penta versus Matt Menard and Angelo Parker. Remember Penta and Commander. They will be brought up again. That did 411,000 viewers. The positive, if you take away the Commander match, the viewership was steady for the whole night. They started with 462. They ended with 487. Danielson and Andrade's match was not the highest of the night. Where did we hear that one before? But almost tied Kenny Omega and Ethan Page. The negative is the high flyers remain grounded with the lowest ratings of the night. Nothing broke 500,000 viewers. Claudio Castagnoli versus Eddie Kingston lost 20,000 viewers as the match went on. And just like Rampage, Bryan Danielson, not the highest rating of the night. Raw, for this past Monday, 1,466,000 viewers, down from the week prior's 1,533,000. Despite that lower number going up against some very heavy NFL games, and I will mention NFL in a second again, the high point from Raw was CM Punk and Seth Rollins' confrontation, which did 1,881,000 viewers. Beautiful number. When you realize that Raw did 1,466,000 for the night, and they have a quarter that's approaching 1.9 million, you know some of those quarters are awful. What does that tell you? What I've been saying since 1997. If you give wrestling fans good shit, must-see TV, they will drop whatever they are doing to watch what you are offering. You want to blame it on football. You want to blame it on politics. You want to blame it on tragedies, mass shootings, earthquakes, volcanoes, presidential debates, playoff sports, baseball, football, basketball. You could blame it on whatever you want. I blame it on one thing. Something other than wrestling was the preference of fans that night. Fans chose to watch something else or do something else than watch your product live. That is why wrestling gets low numbers. I don't blame it on Survivor, never did. Don't blame it on football, never did. Don't blame it on playoff baseball, basketball, politics, shootings, tragedies. I don't blame it on any of it. What I blame it on is something was on that they preferred to watch over wrestling. That's why when wrestling used to have great numbers, you never saw Major League Baseball. You never saw football, basketball, Survivor, Dancing with the Stars, whoever was on. You never saw them say, well, Raw and Nitro was on yesterday. It kicked our ass. Nobody ever blames wrestling for their demise or their low numbers. They blame themselves. And that's the weird dynamic about wrestling fans. Always blame something else except for the product at hand. All right, so CM Punk and Seth Rollins did 1,881,000 viewers. What was the low point from Raw Monday? The first half of Cody Rhodes versus Shinsuke Nakamura only did 1,225,000. AEW Dynamite this week had a quarter that almost matched that. We'll get into that in a moment. But the positive, not only obviously CM Punk and Seth Rollins, for a second week in a row, fans did not budge during a Drew McIntyre match. Drew McIntyre, for the second week in a row, the week before it was Sami Zayn, this past week it was Jey Uso. The fans did not budge. They did not change the channel. They stood glued. 2 weeks in a row, Drew kept every person that was watching his match. Definitely deserves props. The negative from Monday, Hour 3 only averaged 1,318,000 viewers, which includes a quarter involving Nia Jax and Becky Lynch, which did 1,460,000. WWE lost 450,000 viewers right after the CM Punk Seth Rollins segment. After that segment, they never broke 1.5 million for the rest of the night. The women's tag team match of Chance and Kaden Carter versus who did they face? Who did they face? Anybody remember their opponents? It wasn't Natalya and Tegan Nox. Who did they face this past Monday? Could someone remind me who they faced? Chance, Kaden Carter, or did they face? Someone's going to tell me. Well, anyway, that match lost 130,000 viewers as it went on. My friends, who did Chance and Kaden Carter face? Oh, wait, I remember. Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae. Never mind. All right, so that match lost 130,000 viewers as it went on. Cody Rhodes and Shinsuke Nakamura, as the match went on in the post-match angle, they only gained 30,000 viewers. So that is not very good. Here's a little tidbit that you might find interesting. 2 weeks ago, nothing on Raw went under 1.6 million viewers. Last week, only 45 minutes of the 3-hour Raw went above 1.6 million viewers. This week, if you put aside CM Punk and Seth Rollins, they did not break 1.6 million at all. Tale of 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, everything broke 1.6 million. This week, outside of Punk Rollins, nothing broke 1.6 million. Okay, wrapping this up. NXT this past Tuesday, 678,000 viewers, up from the week prior, 626. This week's NXT's rating is fascinating, and I'll tell you why. The high point of NXT was the opening. Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, that segment in the back, Cora Jade's promo, Nikita Lyons' return, and the angle with Blair Davenport and Lyra Valkyria to set up the main event for the night. That opening did 698,000 viewers. The low point was the women's tag match, Blair Davenport and Cora Jade versus Lyra Valkyria and Nikita Lyons. The low point was 685,000. So what does this mean? They started at 698. They ended at 690. It is the most consistent hour and 45 minutes of NXT that I have ever seen with the ratings. Their quarter hours were, get a load of this, 698, 695, 680, 684, 685, 684, and 690. There was no drop. There was no increase. I've never seen that ever, where just from the beginning to end for an hour and 45 minutes, the rating was pretty much identical. It was as if like everybody just, I don't know, that's pretty wild. So what's the positive? It's the most consistent viewed NXT show in its history. I don't even think AEW or WWE's main product has ever done that. The negative, though, despite the consistent rating, it's still lower than recent NXT episodes. Trick Williams and Ilya did not pop any additional viewers. And the main event lost a few viewers as it went on, and that was Nikita Lyons' return to the ring. But it's kind of stretching, overall, very, very consistent for the night. Impact Wrestling for December 14th did 86,000 viewers. Their demo is back to 0.00. That's with the announcement of those recent names we talked about earlier. Impact, New Japan is dead. New Japan did 40,000 viewers. I don't think we should even mention them anymore. And Dynamite, I know I went a little out of place at the end, but I didn't want to give you Impact in New Japan to end the show. But Dynamite from Wednesday, December 13th, did 845,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior's 823. This is very deceiving. The opening quarter, which was the Big Bang Theory lead-in, involving Roderick Strong versus Hangman Page, did 1,098,000 viewers. The low point for Dynamite was the second half of Mark Briscoe versus Jay White. 4 weeks in a row, Jay White is at the bottom. 724,000 viewers. The positive from Dynamite, after that huge 230,000 viewership drop during Hangman Page versus Roderick Strong, yes, that match lost 230,000 viewers as it went on. They maintained their viewers for the next 45 minutes. And their demo, for those that care about demos, was consistent the whole night. So even though the ratings were down, their demo was still consistent. Here's the negative. Despite people want to tell you it was number one for the night, here's the negative. If you take away that Big Bang lead-in, their rating for the night is 812,000 viewers. Barely breaking 800,000. Hangman Page and Roderick Strong lost 230,000 viewers as the match went on. Mark Briscoe versus Jay White lost 50,000 viewers as the match went on. Nothing in hour two broke 800,000 viewers. So when you dissect this a little bit more, hour one, not bad. Hour two, went off the rail. So those are your ratings this week. Want to just give I should have shout out Steve Joseph earlier. He's one of several that said that Liv Morgan needs a medical marijuana card. It's the marijuana part of her arrest is not an issue. And having medical and marijuana card, if you are smoking in the car, you will be cited, issued a citation and possibly arrested. It is illegal to smoke in a car. It impairs your driving, period. And again, this is why, and I'll close with this, a little reminder of what I said earlier. I love Liv Morgan. She is such a nice person. I still have probably 30 autograph photos to give away on these shows. Just we haven't done giveaways recently. We will. But generous, kind, friendly, just a good person overall. Made a mistake. And I truthfully believe, though, that synthetic stuff, you're going to find out she bought it from a store, thought it was legal because they were selling it on the counter, and, they caught it in the car and she got arrested for it. I think everything will be fine with Liv Morgan. But you need to understand something. The reason why she was stopped was because she was driving erratic on the road. This is the road she was on. She was driving erratic. She crossed the double yellow line and the white line several times. You cross that white line, you have grassland and telephone and utility poles. Every few feet, there is a pole. She could have seriously gotten into an accident. You cross that double yellow line, you see the vehicles going on the opposite side of the way. And again, you remember what happened earlier this year. And plus, she got arrested, if I remember correctly, not too late in the evening, like 8:30 at night or whatever it is. If that would have been an hour or two earlier, she could have been blindsided by dusk. So when you see, with all due respect, PW Insider and all those other wrestling news sites that left out that she crossed the line multiple times, that they left out that she was pulled over for reckless driving. That's the reason why she was pulled over, not why she was arrested. Then when you leave out those very important words, then you get people like Top Dollar and everybody else that says, oh, she was unfairly arrested. This is why, if you're going to be a reporter, an opiner or something, you need to sometimes put aside your fandomhood for someone or how much you like someone. Otherwise, don't cover it. Don't cover it, because there are thousands of people out there that have not been informed the total story. And because of that, have come to a totally different conclusion. And yes, Florida laws are terrible. Florida law needs to be enforced. None of these stores should be able to sell something that you could get arrested for. If I go to a store and you have it on the counter for $9, $2, $1, 50 cents free, and I take it and put it in my car, I don't even open it. Put it in my trunk. And a cop pulls me over, opens my trunk. What the hell is this? I bought it at the gas station. Good. You're under arrest. If I'm Liv Morgan, get a fucking lawyer and sue that gas station or wherever she got the stuff from. Florida laws are fucked up. I'm not denying that. But you see what goes on online. People are going out of their way to be PR. They're trying to be public relations for Liv Morgan and damage control instead of just saying what happened and letting people come up with their own conclusion. And that's fucked up and that's dangerous sometimes. So again, I know that's not what some people want to hear sometimes. I try to keep it real here. I try to keep it straight up, and I take pride in that. And, but in the end, I think Liv Morgan will be just fine. I don't see much coming out of this, but it's something that I felt needed to be clarified. A lot of misinformation and incomplete information out there. So I'm going to jet out of here. We're approaching 2 hours. I want to thank you very much for joining me tonight. Again, if you are interested, Sunday night at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, I will be right here once again for the sit down. And who knows, if I get some information sooner, maybe I'll have an announcement or two tomorrow. Not trying to clickbait or anything. I mean, as soon as I know where some things are going, then I can let everybody know. I'm just preparing everybody now that January 1, 2024, there's going to be some significant changes. But once, we get more information, I'll share it with everyone. But for now, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We got Christmas coming up in a very short amount of time. I hope everybody enjoys your Christmas holidays for those who celebrate. And then after that, we got year's end for AEW. We'll see what the devil reveal is. We've come up with some very interesting names. I think we're going to be right in our scenario. And then January 1, 2024, some big things going down. I think Drew McIntyre legitimately has a shot at becoming the world heavyweight champion. And that kind of puts a monkey wrench in everybody out there that's trying to convince you that CM Punk will win the Royal Rumble. Much love, everybody.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.